Obviously, 120 round per minute hand cannons have defined this season of the PvP meta, but as this season wraps up, I wanted to briefly examine exactly why they felt so good this season and why I think that's totally okay. My name's Gjerda, and sometimes I think I have good ideas about Destiny. Okay, first off, and this is the easiest one, 120 round per minute hand cannons have ridiculously high range. After several seasons of hand cannons having fairly low range, this feels especially good. It's pretty exciting compared to where hand cannons used to be in the past. The range boost that 120s experienced also lent itself really well to the ranges that we most often find ourselves in PvP maps. Pretty much no matter what lane you peak on any map, challenging any other gun, you can do very well with a 120 round per minute hand cannon. I think the range boost on 120s doesn't really need much discussion. It's clear how important and powerful this change was. But this brings up another stat that I think is severely overlooked on hand cannons in Destiny, and that's stability. With 120 round per minute hand cannons, most of them have deceptively low stability, but in fact this is kind of a perfect level of stability for them. This is a way I like to look at a lot of guns in Destiny, just like the way I look at armor. I ask, where are the stat spikes, and is that ideal for what I want to be doing with a given style of play? In the case of 120s, which are a perfect example for an optimal stat spread in a gun, these are guns that deal high damage in big chunks over slow, consecutive shots, and you're doing this damage over long ranges. Because the timing of when you shoot is spaced so far apart, this lends itself really well to the mechanics happening behind the scenes with hand cannons in Destiny, and PvP psychology in general. Hear me out here, we're going to take a deep dive that you may have already heard before, but it's worth it, and I have a little bit more to add. As you may know, as hand cannons fire, they have an invisible cone that stretches out in front of them. It starts small at the barrel and grows wider and wider as you go farther out, and then tightens again as you experience range drop off and your shots become low damage and difficult to hit. You should actually envision two cones pointing out from the front of your hand cannon barrel, the accuracy cone and the aim assist cone. You can see a small representation of this in the Garden of Salvation raid where your character is in third person, but you get to keep your reticle on screen. The circle is the aim assist cone and the little compass lines represent the accuracy cone. The accuracy cone is saying this is where your shot could go, and the aim assist cone is saying if your shot is within me, I'll bend the bullet and hit it for you. You can see how when you're in the air, the accuracy cone widens because when your feet are off the ground, you're experiencing a penalty to accuracy. You have a wider area of where your shot could go, that's accuracy, and a smaller window of aim assist, that means less forgiveness. This is a pretty simple way of looking at it, but I think it's really important to know about Destiny gunplay mechanics so you can envision these invisible mechanics as you play. As you fire, the cones stretching out in front of your hand cannon bloom wider and wider and then shrink when you're not firing. Just envision what you saw on your reticle in the Garden of Salvation raid. Every time you jumped, your cones widened, made shots harder to hit. Same thing on a much smaller level happens while you're dueling with your hand cannon. If you fire continuously, your cones widen further and further, making it harder to hit successive shots. That's why landing 3 precision hits, or 4 for that matter, with a hand cannon is harder than landing just 2 precision hits. Now here's the really interesting part. As you're not firing, the stat that governs the speed at which those cones come back to normal is the stability stat on your hand cannon. Higher stability also means the recoil animation will reset more quickly and cleanly so you can start your next shot, but in many cases the secret larger benefit to stability is that it quickly brings your aim assist and accuracy cones back to normal, so you can once again experience the high aim assist and high accuracy that you're granted on your first shot of attack. Now, with 120 round per minute hand cannons, their low stability stat is actually totally fine, because by the time you're firing your second shot, it's taken so long that your cones are getting close to their original favorable status once again by the time you're allowed to shoot again, considering the low rounds per minute. So that's why it doesn't feel so hard to hit 2 precision hits in a row with a 120, but it does feel fairly difficult, to me at least, to land 3 precision hits in a row on a 140. These feelings are significantly tied to that stability stat. Of course, range and aim assist play a big role too, but when you're thinking about the feeling of landing successive shots, a big part of that is the stability stat. Also, because 120 round per minute hand cannons don't finish their recoil animation by the time you can fire your next shot, that means you're already pulling down your aim to hit your next shot well before those cones are ready to go. And now, this is where it gets really interesting, because you've suddenly put yourself in a position where you have distinct separation of time between all these different tasks, giving your brain less to do in these milliseconds. You shoot, your cones widen. You aim your next shot waiting for the slow rounds per minute, and while that's happening, the cones have time to reset, and then you fire again. So rather than the aiming, shooting, and planning your next shot needing to happen all at the same time, with less time for your cones to reset, which was kind of the hallmark of 150 round per minute hand cannons and now 140s to a lesser extent, you've given yourself this really nice pace to do each task in its own time, giving your cones plenty of breathing room, which ultimately means you can land more precision shots and get more kills. Okay, now this part gets a little speculative, but bear with me. In the past 2 months, I switched to mouse and keyboard from controller after playing Destiny on controller for like 6 years, and I've noticed this weird feeling on mouse and keyboard with hand cannons where if I sort of pull down and overcorrect and then recorrect my target's head, it feels much more sticky. I know this is kind of a tinfoil hat theory, but I've just felt like centering my reticle on a target with a sort of preemptive, forceful recorrection before the recoil animation finishes results in a stickier aim assist cone. It could be nothing, but I swear, if I try to reset my reticle right on my target's head immediately after shooting, not waiting for the recoil animation, the cones bless me. It almost feels like I'm shaking the aim assist cone's stickiness off of my target after each shot and then quickly slapping the cone back onto the target, and then the aim assist cone engages more effectively and I'm getting more favorable cones. Okay, that's enough of that. I've said cones so much at this point, and I would literally feel like I'm committing a crime if I don't credit Drewski right now. Drew, along with Mercules and other community members, are widely credited with figuring out these cone theories and the huge effect they have on our gunplay in Destiny, so please go check them out on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Reddit, wherever you spend your time. Drewski, Mercules. All in all, the stability stat remains really important for all players regardless of input method, even if you want to ignore the tinfoil hat theories about forcefully resetting cones. Getting those accuracy and aim assist cones to reset to their original position more quickly with a higher stability stat is going to be really beneficial for you landing more shots. Since 120s have such high range already and they don't really need high stability because the time they grant you to aim between each shot, they feel really consistent. Pair that with some really high damage and range, and you've got a primary weapon that will dominate the sandbox, and that's precisely what 120 round per minute hand cannons have done. The last point I wanted to touch on is the safety and ease of use that 120 round per minute hand cannons grant their users. While 120s don't have a particularly quick TTK, time to kill, their TTK is still very forgiving. In many cases, you only need 1 precision shot out of 3 to kill, or just 2 out of 3. Now, even though their TTK isn't very high, which might look alarming on paper, where they excel is team play. If you and your teammate both peek a lane and put in 1 headshot each, any guardian you both damage is going to be extremely weak, requiring very little damage to clean up. And that all happens in the span of a split second. If you're playing with even relatively coordinated teammates, you can exact some devastating damage upon the enemy team. The reason this matters for high-level Crucible play comes down to the fact that good players are almost never going to give you an optimal TTK opportunity. If a good player starts taking too much damage, they're going to disengage before you can finish them off. You won't even have a chance. So that's a huge reason why 120 RPM hand cannons have dominated this season and will continue to play a very important role in the PvP sandbox even if they receive a patch. If you want to kill good opponents, you almost always need a team shoot, and that is what 120s were kind of destined to do. Whereas 140s and 180s are excellent dueling weapons, 120s are just perfect for sitting in the back of the map quite comfortably with a cup of tea, landing a precision hit or maybe 2, and just chilling out. While we're all afraid of stasis and learning to play around it this season, 120s have welcomed us into their arms and said, hey, it's okay, just relax back here with me, far away from everyone and their mean, icy crystals, and just land like 2 shots and then chill. And dang, that sounds pretty nice. All in all, this is what makes 120s such an appealing choice. They are a safe pick for an engagement of any range, a safe choice for those without great aim, and a safe choice for winning, as you can peek shoot with your team really effectively and get incredible results for low effort and low risk. So is this too much though? Should anything be this good? On the one hand, I really like it when primary weapons feel powerful because that's not a feeling we get very often, and they should be really powerful for a healthy PvP sandbox. Especially with how pervasive one-hit kill special weapons have become in the sandbox, a powerful primary feels pretty nice, I gotta say. That said, the versatility, power, and ease of use of 120 RPM hand cannons is a little too high. I believe a range nerf of about 7 meters to 120s would feel more fair, and a small nerf to damage would be fair, maybe even just 6 to 8 points or so to make cleanup kills a little bit more challenging. Furthermore, I think more 120s really needed to be available at the beginning of this season. If they're going to be such a powerful archetype, there needs to be a way to get more of them, and to get True Prophecy, which was clearly the best this season. And honestly, that's about it. That's pretty much all I have to say about the changes that 120s need. I know it's like 3 tiny things, a little less range and damage, and give us a few more of them, but seriously, that's it. I think in this instance, the hand cannon rebalancing for Beyond Light was a really excellent move on Bungie's part, and now it's only requiring a tiny bit of retuning after the fact to make it feel perfect. but even now, it's still feeling pretty good. To me, this season felt like 120s in many PvP scenarios edged out the territory of 140s and obviously 180s for sure, but honestly, I'm okay with that. 120s had their time to shine, and soon they'll fall back in line with the others. And in the meantime, 140s and to some extent 180s still feel like good choices for PvP. Plus, on top of all this, people who pay close attention to team composition have probably noticed this season the great feeling of pairing several different kinds of hand cannon archetypes together. I really felt some awesome synergy when I was on a team of 3 and we each had one type of hand cannon archetype rather than just 3 120s. And that might be my favorite part of all, the incentive that this particular PvP balancing patch provided for diversifying team loadouts. Not only did the patch give breathing room to other guns and let 120s shine, it made hand cannons feel really good after several seasons of low range, and it incentivized a diverse team composition. All in all, 120 RPM hand cannons are certainly a little overpowered right now, but I believe they've had some time to shine in a way that still felt reasonable. And also, I know other guns will have time to shine in the future, and that's great. That's as it should be. That's all I have to say about the matter, and thanks for tuning in. If you like this, please support the channel, and if you didn't like it, my home address for sending me hate mail is actually just right here. Thanks. Anyway, hope to see you next time, and have some fun out there. Okay, bye now.